Brett Pontecorvo here at LiveKeyboardist.com. And what if I told you that most of the synthesizers you own are all exactly the same? Yes, friends, it is entirely true. Every single subtractive synthesizer that you have in your library is made up of the same parts. Now, before we dive into this, I want you to take a second to click that like button, hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with everything that's happening at LiveKeyboardist. Now, what is a subtractive synthesizer? A subtractive synthesizer starts with a lot of sound and then uses things to pull parts of that sound out to replicate other sounds. So every subtractive synthesizer uses the same 5 parts. There are 3 primary parts and 2 parts that change those other parts. So let's break them down. Part 1 are your oscillators. And oscillators are the sound generating engine of any synth. So right now I've got pulled up several different subtractive synthesizers, and what I want you to notice is that all of them have an oscillator tab. Oscillators, same thing in Wavetable. We've got our oscillators here. Same thing in Massive, 1, 2, 3 oscillators. In Tal Noisemaker, also oscillator 1 and oscillator 2. And in Synth 1, which is a great free synth, we also have our oscillators. Part 1, oscillators, that is our sound generating engine. Part 2 is our filters, and filters are what we use to pull parts of the sound out. So let's have a look back through again, going through all of these different synths. Each of them has a filter, and you can kind of hear, whoa, let's turn that off for now. And you can kind of hear they pull things out. So that is our analog. I've got something weird with an LFO happening here. Filter and Wavetable. We head over here to Massive. If I go over to my filter, which I guess I have to choose my filter. Changes the sound. If I head over to Tal Noisemaker, which I've been pleasantly surprised with the sound of this synth, and I change my filter cutoff, and the same in Synth 1. Moving my frequency. All parts are the same. All right, the final part is the amplitude, or the amplifier, and this is the part that controls the level of the sound. Now, oftentimes in subtractive synths, there will be more than one amplifier, and that is because you will have an individual amp for each oscillator as well as for the master. So let's have a look at that here. In analog, we've got amplitude here, and also here. In Wavetable, we've got our overall volume, as well as here and here. In Massive, we've got our overall volume over here, and we've got individual volumes for each of the oscillators over here as well. Tal Noisemaker. Controls the volumes from, switch these over, from one tab here, but they're still individual in the overall volume there. Synth 1. Synth 1 has the amplifier section over here. All right, and now our modifiers. We've got LFO and envelope. Let's start with envelope, since that is one that gets used a lot. LFOs get used a lot too, but envelopes were something that took me a minute to understand. So all envelopes do is control a parameter over time. Most envelopes are broken down into 4 separate parameters: attack, decay, sustain, and release. Attack controls the amount of time it takes to get to full expression. Decay controls the amount of time it takes to get to the sustained level. Sustain sets the sustained level. And decay measures the amount of time it takes to get back to the original expression. So, in analog, Wavetable is easier to show you. So, in Wavetable, I've got an amp envelope set up over here. So, as I increase this attack time, you'll hear it swells to get up, and as I decrease this, you'll hear a drop in the level, and I could bring this all the way down and it'll come to silence. And this can also be used to control things like filter frequency. If I wanted to get some punch in the low end, I could do something along those lines. Envelopes control parameters over time, and LFOs do the same thing. However, they control in a repeating fashion. So if I were to attach this LFO to pitch, as I increase the amount that it gets affected, you will hear it start to, I should bring the sustain up. You'll hear it start to change the pitch over time. If I change the rate, and these parameters also exist in every single other subtractive synth. In Massive, we've got some different envelopes here. In Analog, we've got our envelopes for each dedicated thing in the selected tab. Tal Noisemaker has these ADSR knobs here, kind of modeling what it would be like if it was a hardware synth. And then in Synth 1, we've got our different ADSR envelopes as well. So what have we learned from this? You can do basically anything with almost anything. So if you have one of these synthesizers, you can make the same things. Now, certain synths may have included audio effects, certain synths may have extra bells and whistles, but the heart of the subtractive synthesizer comes down to 5 parameters: oscillators, filters, amplifiers, envelopes, and LFOs. Make sure you like and subscribe to stay up to date with everything that's going on, and I will see you next week.